before I even get started, buy the book that's down below. You do not want to miss this book. You do not want to be left out. DAWGSTRUCTION, it's right down below. Let's get to the video. Well, the celebration is all over now. Georgia's raised the national championship banner over that way in the eastern end zone, the closed in, and it was a really it looked like it was going to be a religious experience for a second there at the beginning of this thing, but really was a tame um, bunch of dogs, a lot less tame than I've seen on Friday nights and Saturday nights at Athens in the past. A chance to really celebrate um, a magical season for Georgia, their players, the parade, Stetson Bennett, JT Daniels on the same float, and Kobe Dean in the BMW. A lot of Zamir, Jamari. There were a lot of guys that got a chance to say stuff here at the end. Jordan Davis. Jordan talked about his conversation with Devontae Wyatt a season ago, about this time a year ago, about how they wanted to come back, and really the everything they went through along the way. And there was a lot. I mean, let's not forget that Clemson game heading into it, that Georgia was a 3-point underdog, which made no sense to me at the time. But there were plenty of people doubting Georgia. And I think now there will be an overreaction on the other side, that people will just assume because they won the national championship once that they will do it and have no issues in the future. But Georgia's still swimming in the water with a lot of sharks, and Alabama's not going anywhere. But Alabama was nowhere to be seen today, mentioned in passing occasionally. Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, said he had never seen a celebration like this. Let me tell you, it was sold out, but it wasn't full. And part of the reason was that people were on the field, so they weren't in their designated spots. There were a lot of people on the bridge trying to and there are even more. Good Lord, you should see all these people. I can't do it justice right now. We're about 20 minutes after this thing has ended, and I've seen a lot of people on Sanford Drive before, but that's a lot of people. But it really was a great day. A lot of children coming with their families. I'm still turning and looking. You can see some of the stands. People throwing the football on the field, the redcoats. Some of them are spilling onto the field to take pictures with Uga. Yeah. I thought we were coming pretty close to a religious experience. I didn't know if people were going to get called up to the front to to proclaim some things, but really, I thought DJ did a great job today. Aaron Murray was on camera. Brandon Boykin, these guys don't age yet. But you get a chance to see the happiness of guys like Brandon Boykin and certainly Aaron. I mean, did anybody go through a more challenging time of having burden on him than Aaron Murray while at Georgia? I'm not sure there's been many people, if there have been, beating Aaron out for that category. But this really was a team that didn't have any one star. That was the problem for a lot of teams dealing with the Dogs. You didn't just have to stop, say, Stetson Bennett from running around and torturing you. You had to deal with Zamir and James Cook. George Pickens made 2 plays in the national championship game that really hurt Alabama. And they played without George, for 12 games this season, I think it was, whatever it was. But, the defense, it wasn't just Jordan. I mean, I would say Trayvon and Jalen Carter were as hard or harder to deal with than Jordan Davis. But Jordan really was the heart and soul of this team. But it could have been Devontae too. I mean, there's no shortage of guys. And, if you start from the beginning and you talk about how did this get built and, what happened along the way, it was built by recruiting. Okay. That's step one. because you can't develop what you don't have. And the number one way to get things is recruiting. And I'm never going to change talking about that because it's just the truth. Secondly, they developed. You don't think Stetson Bennett was developed? Okay, he certainly was developed. Everybody's not Brock Bowers. So Stetson was developed along the way, and it wasn't just Stetson. Chris Smith, okay, William Poole had a huge postseason impact. William Poole was completely forgotten about for years, and all of a sudden here he is in these championship games knocking balls away. That's development, okay. Three, and these all go hand in hand, but you have to choose to win at the collegiate level. You have to have support, not just from your board and your president. If you don't have those two things, then you have the wrong board and you have the wrong president. And that is, you see that around college athletics. You see that things are not aligned the right way. People don't understand the power of athletics for institutions. That's another discussion for another time. And then I come from a family of academics, okay? But no one's going to go watch a presentation on the Renaissance. 22 million people are not going to go watch that, or 29 million or 28 million like in 2017. They're going to watch sports. And then you take the top of the funnel and then grow the university as you go down with more, the further you get down your marketing funnel, the people at the bottom have to really support you. But you want to capture the 20-something million. That you do that with sports. So you have to have support at every level, and you have to have the right head coach who totally understands how to demand particular things from the institution that he works for. And I think Kirby gets it in a way that he's a good fit at Georgia, the way that Nick is at Alabama, and the way that like Steve Spurrier was at Florida or whatever. Does it occur to you that Kirby Smart has won as many national championships as Steve Spurrier? I mean, as Mac Brown, as some of the great college football coaches, as Vince Dooley. I mean, look, I love Vince Dooley was a great coach. Kirby Smart is the best coach all time at Georgia. The question for Kirby is going to be how big a gap is that going to be for like in our lifetime and in the lifetime of Kirby Smart and Dean Legge. I don't know, but he can make it pretty wide. I think winning 6 national championships seems crazy. But it's not, and it won't be easy. But it's something that he can accomplish here. You look at this support today. That is a group of people that it is socially ingrained in them that this is a big deal, and it might not. Maybe it's the wrong big deal. Maybe we should be focusing on curing cancer and stuff like that. But this is a huge, huge deal in the socio-economic. I mean, it's all a big deal in this state. It's a big deal in Atlanta, or WSB wouldn't be broadcasting this live in the 7th largest media market or 6th largest media market in the country. I mean, so could Kirby do this? Yeah, he could. He could do this, but he's still going to need help. And doing it once is one thing. Doing it multiple times makes it makes it that much harder. So I think for Georgia, the question becomes, how do you not just replicate this, but is there a way? Is there a formula to replicate it? That I don't know. It seems like there is because Alabama's done it multiple times. But there's a new future here coming up in college football. There's a new world, and Georgia has perfected now, if you want to call it that. Georgia has now understood how to win in this moment in time. In 5 years, we could be in a very different college football. It could be more advantageous to Georgia, or it could be harder. When OU and UT come in, that's going to make the league more difficult. The SEC would be wise at some stage to be a proponent of playoff expansion. Right now, no. when Texas and OU come in, I think that's the time that Greg Sankey, who is as vicious and slick as anybody in college football or the sport of business, uh, that's when he needs to start pivoting. Because in 2026, 2025, you're talking about a different college football. That's something you really want to be wary of, um, as the future gets here. But this next 4 years is going to be, and I know y'all believe me because you're watching this in the tens of thousands. It's going to be Georgia, Bama, Ohio State. It's going to be a race between those three to see how many people, how many times can those three win it in this next 4 years. So 23, excuse me, 22, 23, 24, and 25. I believe there are 4 years left in this contract. So there's going to be a little bit of time left for those three. Now it's going to be a real dogfight. Alabama should be favored coming into this year in like a legitimate way. The folks in Vegas think it's Georgia and Alabama. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think it should be Alabama. But it's going to be a fight between that trio. Can Oklahoma, SC, can Oregon, can Oklahoma, can Michigan, can our old friends at Clemson who are going to have to change the way that they are moving forward? Can LSU? The way Clemson did it, that's not going to work moving forward. And it's very possible that the way Georgia did it this year might not work moving forward. The world has changed in college football in a way that the past is terminal. In the 90s, that was different than the 80s, but not like we're about to see the difference moving forward that we just went through. Alabama and Georgia are positioned in a way that other schools are not. It is up to Kirby and them, and when I say them, I say Kirby, Josh Brooks, Jerry. It's that group and the Board of Regents. They're going to have to position themselves in a way that is advantageous to Georgia. It's sometimes easier said than done. But everything these celebrations, this will not be the last one. I mean, that would be pretty shocking to me if this were the last one, because at this point, Georgia's won it. And people inside say the first one is the hardest one. We saw Nick win it in 9 and then win it in 11 and 12. And then, it took off from there. Obviously the first one to me was way harder for Dabo in 16 than the one in 18. So, and you don't have a lot of coaches that have multiple national championships that are out there in college football right now. You don't have a lot of coaches that have national championships. I mean, in the league, you have Kirby, Nick, Jimbo, and I think that's it. Someone else can correct me, but today was, again, I thought it was about to be a seriously religious experience. It didn't turn out to be that, but it was pretty close for a lot of people. And the stadium was about as full as, the second quarter of a UAB game. So it was, I don't know, 80,000 people. Maybe I couldn't see the upper deck, didn't look like it was jammed. But I'm telling you, the bridge is only now starting to clear out. There's been, I would say, my guess is there's 120, maybe 140,000 people in town. And everybody didn't come to this thing, but it was a great day for fans that are younger, people who couldn't afford to make the trip. Hey, covering the Dawgs, I know it's an expensive thing. And that's one other thing that Kirby touched on. And this is why Georgia people I don't know who the greatest football fans in college football are, but I know the ones that are determined to take over stadiums, and that's Georgia. Georgia goes they go everywhere they go to play. Georgia's going to take the stadium over. There's been one exception in the last half decade, and that was the Michigan game. And Georgia people were going up against a huge alumni base with a lot of money, and Georgia people were saving their money for the national championship. I mean, this last 30 games, Georgia has not had more people in the stadium for the Michigan game, the Auburn game, the Tennessee game, the Alabama game in Tuscaloosa, and that's it. So Tech, Vandy, Clemson, uh, the SEC championship game, the national championship game. If there are tickets and seats to be had, they will take your city over, period. Ask Indianapolis, ask Jacksonville, ask Charlotte, ask all these places. So I don't know who the greatest fans are. I don't, because that's up to interpretation. But I know who's ready to party and travel and watch their team the most. And there's no question that's Georgia. If it were somebody else, it would be somebody else, and it ain't. And today, these folks finally got a chance to celebrate. Saw a hairy dog running around with the flag. There were some surreal moments in Indianapolis, and today was a much more Sunday school compared to Indianapolis, where I mean, I saw grown men do some stuff that they just shouldn't be doing, and you know who you are. From Sanford, we'll see you at G Day. We'll see you, on the interwebs all the time. Make certain that you are taking advantage of this book down there. I should have talked about that. I'm going to have to edit this at the beginning. I'm going to talk about it, but you need to get that book. We got way too many orders for me to keep up with. You do not want to miss out on that. Thanks for watching.